Also, in a previous message, we demonstrated how the Honorable Louis Farrakhan has and continues to fulfill salient or key events in the biblical and Quranic prophetic narratives of David. Well, the way the Davidic narrative is written, it also allows people to interpret scenes according to their dominant mindset. Now, given that such persons have already deemed David to be unrighteous, it's likely that these particular persons will have an interpretation that inclines towards that. For example, it states in the Bible, "And it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David. And Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day and would let him go no more home to his father's house. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant, because he loved him as his own soul." Now, the knitting of souls has a profoundly spiritual meaning, and it has to do with how Allah anoints and pairs his messengers, just generally. Notwithstanding, how many ways can these verses be interpreted as it relates to the special relationship between David and Jonathan? Was David's concept of love the same as God's concept, or was it the popular concept of this satanic world which equates love to sexual intercourse? Well, let's consider this. Even today, writers remain fascinated with David. Half a dozen new novels about him have appeared in just the last few years, some by world-class authors. Writers have viewed David in different ways. For some poets and prose writers alike, David was primarily a champion. His victory over Goliath was the triumph of truth, beauty, and virtue over hideous evil. But for other writers, David was less heroic. Some depicted him as a man of unbridled and insatiable sexual appetite. Now, let me pause here to state this as it relates to this sexual appetite. Now, David had wives, as did Solomon, according to the Bible. Abraham also had wives. Well, traditionally, polygamy has been a marital form that African and Asian peoples have used as a solution to stabilize societies or even families, especially those ravaged by pestilence and war, which produced heavy casualties among male populations. Consequently, this leaves women and children in squander and as prey. European anthropologists have intentionally ignored this truth, preferring to brand polygamy in the original people's societies as a means of satisfying sexual appetites of men who engage in this marital form. Now, I can't say that some men don't do that, but that's not the common purpose of polygamy. Well, Mr. Caucasian, you produced a ghastly, immoral world. We're in it. That does not require a man to take multiple women in marriage in order to satisfy his sexual urges. As a result, marriage is the remote exception, while sexual abuse and exploitation of girls and women is the established rule. In other words, avoid marriage and just fornicating. That's the order of the day in Western civilization. And since the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan were born in the United States, where fornication is the order of the day, they did not need to enter polygamy to satisfy their sexual urges, if this was their objective for engaging in polygamy. So when the wicked mass news media pursues this part of their domestic life, I want us all to keep this fact in mind. Also keep in mind the lives we've ill-affected or even torn apart as a result of our miscues in fornication and adultery. So who stands to judge anyone today? Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan entered polygamy because Allah in the person of Master Fard Muhammad ordered them to do that. And I have written and spoken about this, explaining several reasons why he commanded them to do this. So you can avail yourself to that knowledge if you want to.